almost more pressing, which is staggering on grand final days, what's happening at your job?
Oh, Bill.
Yeah, what's going on,
No,
Bill?
Nicky's well. The kids are fine.
Bill,
Is Geelong imploding, Bill?
No, they're not, Jason. They've best players gone.
Golly, serious voice.
No, the best players gone, and we knew that was coming. That was like a pregnancy.
Just
you know,
on that,
it's
Bill.
You've denied that for 2 years.
Well, in a glimmer of hope, my heart more so than my head.
Well, let me just say this, Bill. No one be of any doubt that a good 6 months before some paper scribes latched onto the fact that maybe Gary Ablett and the Gold Coast were linked, this is what was said on Triple M football.
I can tell you that the club that this guy is coming from, they are absolutely desperate. In fact, they are frustrated in their attempts to sign this man.
It's a good build-up piece.
They are absolutely frustrated in their attempts to sign. He will not put pen to paper at all, and the proof will be in the pudding over the next, probably the rest of this year. If he doesn't sign, this is 100% right. I am speaking of the one top liner that they're going to go for with $1.5 million that Gold Coast can pay him per year. That's right. Jeez. Twice the amount that any other club can possibly afford to pay him. He has connections up on the Gold Coast already in family. I'm talking about Gary Ablett Jr. Is just about across the line. Just about. In fact, so much that Gold Coast they believe they nearly have him.
When was that, Jim?
This was 12:02 p.m, Chief, 2009, 23rd of May. Now,
Middle of last year.
Gary, I was out in the media room. There's half a wobble out there. If it's five guys saying I ran with it first, we can have a little touch team wobble here. Now, the voice we heard there.
2009. Now, it wasn't Brian's story either. We
No,
gave it to
we
him.
did.
And you could tell that Howard he wasn't quite confident in going with it.
Now that he's gone, we can tell you that it wasn't his story, but we let him deliver it. 2009.
23rd of May.
And
But-
throwing up 1.5 at the time where that whole media room just scoffed.
They
Scoffed.
did. And there's a few
Scoffed.
guys in there now trying to claim it.
But if you listen to his manager, he'll say they didn't make up their mind till a week ago.
Well, even his manager didn't know what we knew back then,
Righto.
Jim.
I'm Bill.
And Bill, don't worry about the fact that there's something almost that size ready to come out of this room in the next half
Now,
hour.
Bill, Bomber Thompson,
Yes.
what's going on with
Had an
Mark?
interesting week, Bomber. Fair to say.
Right, listen. Cut. This
Yeah.
is the Saturday stuff, 12
Yes.
till 2, not your Friday night muck.
No fence sitting, Bill.
Cut to the chase.
Well, you wouldn't think you'd be coaching Geelong. No, of course he
Well,
won't.
this is Bomber from last night, just as we get ourselves ready to discuss it.
It's been a lot of rumours and innuendo, and I haven't told anyone that at all, and certainly not Brenton Sanderson. He rang me today and apologised for something he didn't say to somebody. So, no, that's not the case. I had a discussion with Cookie to say that I was tired about 3-4 months ago, and that's what I am. If I don't end up coaching at Geelong, and that's not decided, I'm going to take a bit of time off. And I might have to look at doing something. I need to work. I'm not going to coach. And I said this to Brian Cook the other day. My plans right now is to never coach senior footy again.
Yep.
Yeah,
And you
it.
maintain that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a hard
As a
job,
senior
and
coach,
I think I've done enough time.
So there he is.
Bomber.
Well, I watched that, and I think he's gone. And I think he's going to end up at Essendon.
Well, that's the perfect way to cover off a move to Essendon. He said, I'm not going to senior coach again, but I need to work, I need to do something.
What has been interesting in this one is that they still haven't spoken, Gary Ablett and Bomber, and there's certainly something there.
They're not likely to, Bill.
No, exactly, and there's certainly something there which hasn't. It's turned sour, and we all picked that up.
Bill, what's also...
When's there going to be an announcement, though? That's the big thing, Bill, because he's got a contract, Mark.
No, this weekend, they need
Tuesday.
to know by Tuesday because it's trade week.
What-
So this
what-
weekend.
And Bill, what's also interesting is Geelong taking a long time to pick up on what was going on here, because they were getting calls from media. I had several conversations, I know other people did, about to Brian Cook and others, that this was in play, that this was going to happen. And there was I think almost delusionally, thought he'd just say no to when the phone call came. And he clearly didn't, and clearly hasn't even now said no to that.
They didn't expect him to come in on Monday and say, I'm exhausted. That just come from the blue.
Yeah,
Hang on a minute. He said he had a conversation months ago.
What?
With Brian Cook
Yes,
about
yeah.
being tired.
But
Jim,
then he's come in and said that.
I want to ask you a question, Jim, as president or chairman of a footy club. Why would you have a press conference to tell everyone that your coach is fatigued?
I don't know.
It doesn't say anything one way or the other.
Just,
why not make a decision one way or the other, then come out and go bang?
As the president of a footy club and as a board member of a footy club, Chief, what staggered me is that they're going into a best and fairest with no knowledge of what their coach has got planned to either say or do on that night and beyond.
No, they knew.
I find that staggering.
Brian Cook knew what Bomber was going to say Thursday night. He knew.
I don't think he was completely sure, though, Bill.
No, I spoke to Brian Cook. I said, what's Bomber going to say? And I was going to say that on the footy show if asked.
No,
and Brian Cook said he's just going to give the coaches award and he's going to talk about 2010.
The time frame, Chief, about the meeting is Patrick Smith wrote a big story in the Australian saying he's gone and going to Essendon on the Monday, I think, or whatever it was, Tuesday. And then Brian Cook rang Mark Thompson on the back of that article and said, we need to get together. So they said, all right, 10 o'clock, let's have a chat. And that is when he declared that he was fatigued and he wasn't sure about coaching. Now, the question I have is, had that article from Patrick not been written saying he's going to Essendon, Cookie none the wiser. He wouldn't have rung. So when was Mark Thompson going to say, hey, I'm weary, I need out?
Fair call, but there are actually some comments made by Terry Wallace during the week which I thought were very valid. He said if Mark Thompson's not sure, then he is sure. He shouldn't be coaching.
Yeah.
And so the press conference they should have had was to say, I'm not coaching Geelong anymore because I haven't got the drive.
And that's
all he had to do. And then say,
is.
I'll now take time off and consider my options.
You're absolutely 100% right, because it is all-consuming, the job. And if you're 1% in doubt, and so if you're a footy director, if a senior coach came to you and said, I'm not sure, you've got to cut them free. You've just got to cut the slack and say, well done, because it is a great there's a shelf life. I have a look at it.
Yeah.
Mark Williams, 11 years, and that was enough. That was time to part ways. It's 11 years at Geelong.
Hey, Brian Cook and Neil Baum know that.
Yeah.
They're not silly. And there will be a decision made, and it looks like he won't be coached.
Kevin Sheedy and Kevin Sheedy and Jock McHale are the only ones to go over 12 or 13 years at a club. So
Billy, should Cookie, and who I've got the utmost respect for, and we had a great interview with him here a few weeks ago, and Barmy, just call Tomo in and Mark Thompson in and say, listen, time to go, mate. Yeah. We understand where you're at and we appreciate you've been absolutely superb. We'll take the pressure off you, mate. We're just going to cut ties.
And then what happens then? Do they have to pay him out if they cut him?
Oh, well, yeah. Absolutely.
No, you wouldn't, though.
What happens if Bomber comes to them and says he won't do it then?
You would make a mutual decision and say,
depends who's calling the shots.
You don't want to coach anymore. We won't pay you out, and we're happy to release you from the last year of the contract.
I'm not totally over it, but I'm pretty sure it's a working agreement, which means there's a 3-month termination clause.
Yeah.
So there'll be a 3-month payout.
Has it embarrassed the club, Bill?
I think on top of the Gary Ablett thing, him leaving, I think it hasn't helped the club a lot. But the great thing is that with Brian Cook and Neil Baum there and 10 All-Australians still in that team...
No, I'm just talking about Bomber's situation. Has that embarrassed
I think
Geelong?
he hasn't helped himself, Bomber, because you're not sure what he's saying. We've seen him last night. I don't know why he went on the television last night. Because, again, he said nothing. He said, yeah, I'm leaving, if I do go, and things like that. So I don't think he's really helped himself.
The answer to your question is yes, it has embarrassed Geelong.
And that is unacceptable.
No, and the reason why they're not getting belted as aggressively as perhaps had it been a Melbourne or even a North Melbourne or whatever is because they've got credits in the bank.
2 premierships.
They've got a massive, big war chest there that says, okay, we get most things right and we got this one wrong.
Yep.
The chief exec, I don't know who said it, Damo, they were oblivious. And that is the only thing that embarrasses them, that they were sort of oblivious to everything that was going on, and there's obviously been dealings. And I heard Neil Baum, who no one I love more in footy than Barmy, come out really aggressively when one of these articles was written and say, it's just a load of crap and it's embarrassing. Why? How can people write this stuff? That embarrasses Barmy now because he's spoken to Mark Thompson, who said, "No, mate, I'm sweet." So yes, they've been embarrassed, but we live with it because they've got such a great 4 or 5 years behind them.
Neil Baum's a great footy ops, but trading starts on Tuesday.
Yeah,
they need a senior coach to say, "Where's the list at? Is the list still good enough to compete at the top echelon?"
Do you need a senior coach for that?
You do, Bill, because you need to get in and say, well, no, we need to rebuild a little bit. And maybe a couple of those All-Australians you talk about need to go other places for opportunities and get a quick rebuild. Collingwood did it 3 years ago, and they're playing in a grand final today.
Who's it going to be, Damo? If Mike Thompson has finished as Geelong senior coach, who's going to coach him next year?
I think Ken Hinckley's got himself ahead of Brenton Sanderson, JB, on this. It's certainly that was the talk from other clubs up in Canberra during the week. There were senior footy people up there all week, and that was the overriding theory on what would happen. And again, it will play out. I think Tuesday, as Bill said, is the day they want to know for sure. I think they know right now Mark Thompson won't be there. And while it would annoy Brenton Sanderson to have Ken Hinckley leave the Gold Coast club as an assistant coach, he was there in Canberra early in the week. He wasn't there late in the week. I don't know whether we read anything into that. A lot of the assistant coaches stayed around late in the week in Canberra at the Combine, but he left, and that was the overriding thought, even as late as yesterday afternoon, that Ken Hinckley would get it.
Sanderson to Collingwood as strong lieutenant to Nathan Buckley.
As early as next
year.
As
a great mate. Well, I mean, the writing's on the wall. I mean, if he gets overlooked now, he's been anointed by Bomber Thompson.
Yep.
Matthew Scarlett anointed him Thursday night on the footy show and said they should put Brenton Sanderson straight in if Bomber doesn't. So
wrong for a player to say that too.
Well,
because that puts pressure on the club, and players shouldn't do that.
Yeah, well, that's true, but that's Matty Scarlett who speaks his mind, and strong clubs will say, listen, that's your opinion, Matthew, and good on you, but we run this club.
Spud and I had been having a chat about this, Spud, and you made a very valid comment. You said it was only, a month ago that Brenton Sanderson said he wasn't ready to coach Port Adelaide. So why is he all of a sudden ready to coach Geelong straight away?
There was some suspicion that it was a bit of a tap on the shoulder. Mark Thompson, who's the strongest advocate for Brenton, said, listen, mate, don't go. I ain't going forever.
Yeah, but he might be a strong advocate.
Where does
I don't know that the others are anywhere near as strong.
The club's not.
Yeah. What about Hurdy with all this, knowing that, well, we only believe that Mark Thompson was going to be his... now, if he doesn't go, where's it put James? Because he's desperate to get a senior assistant, probably two. Because Simon Goodwin's come in now. He's just finishing playing.
Sean Wellman's there.